Boom, we are live, and it looks like people are already joining. This is awesome. Thank you so much. I'm Alon Gorin. I'm one of the founders of Draper Gorin Home. We decided to do this weekly stream so we could hang out with a different blockchain founder every week. I didn't say that the show is called What the Block. So thank you so much for joining us. If you're seeing this after the fact, subscribe on YouTube and on the LinkedIn on the LA Blockchain Summit pages, because then you'll be able to participate live, actually ask questions. We can bring them on screen and stuff like that. And then you'll be notified when we do go live. So make sure you subscribe at those places. Welcome, Kevin. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
We had a fun night last night. That sounds much more crazy than it actually was when I say it like that. We're both in our own places, in our own homes, quarantining and all that fun stuff. But last night was a big day for what you've been building, and exciting for me to be able to participate. But first, before we dive into all that stuff, tell us about Tezos Stable Technologies real quick. Give us your background, and then we'll dive into fun stuff, current events.
Yeah, so my background, I am a product-driven entrepreneur. Been in tech for a very long time, and crypto since 2012 is when I originally got started. Tezos since 2017. And Tezos for me really just, I grabbed it so, you can see how important. I'm wearing the shirt too, the one I got from Tezos Israel. That's nice. But Tezos to me, I just immediately saw it as the future, because part of my issue with other blockchain protocols and smart contract protocols was this issue of hard forking and the consequences of that. And I felt, we can't really build a momentum, and we're kind of losing a lot of spill off with the constant hard forks, despite some of the byproduct benefits that could come from it. And the Tezos idea of on-chain governance, to me, just answered everything. It's like, okay, yes, as long as we have a united community, we can bring together all of the intellectual energies of the world. We can keep growing, and we can take the things from other blockchains that we like and bring them on board here to Tezos. So to me, this idea of Tezos being the last blockchain, it made perfect sense. I really embraced it, and I went forward with my Tezos projects, brought together people who are far more brilliant than I to build these tools now in DeFi. DeFi for me, that's what I see as what bankrolls and what innovates the rest of the things to come with blockchain. Plenty of great services and tools that are going to come. I mean, it's really unlimited what can come from smart contract protocols. But as we look throughout history, the history of technology and technological advancement, really even just looking through since the industrial age, it's always been finance that takes it first. It's finance that really sees the advantage. It's finance that can work based even just on the linear constructs and innovations that come initially from these tools, whether it's ticker tape or computers or the internet or fax, and smart contract protocols. That's what I really engaged in. As soon as the Tezos token standard, the FA standard, was announced in mid-2019, that's when I began the project of making USD Tez. That was the stablecoin. And now it's between that and ETH Tez, the whole suite of assets, Stable Tez is over $500,000 market cap at this point. We're just getting started, of course. But yeah, it's really exciting. And what we did last night, I'd call it history. That's the first truly decentralized Ethereum to Tezos bridge. So you can take your ERC20 tokens and then swap them for FA12 tokens. Or FA2 tokens once that becomes a larger thing. So from there, that's really we have a lot to build still, but as we grow, as we continue to build out all the different features and build out a network, we're going to lead to even more great things beyond stablecoins, beyond trading mechanisms. The lending program, the lending protocol, Tezos Finance, that's going to be really the big thing that all this, I think, is leading to. And the stuff that's going to be built after that, not just by us, but by independent entrepreneurs who will be building on top of it through derivatives and all that, that's going to be huge. far bigger than this infrastructure. Yeah.
Well, let's go back to the building blocks, right? So you launched through StableTech, you launched the USD Tez, and then you've launched the ETH so far. It's only been a couple months. So you said you got to 500,000 locked in that time.
Yeah, So of the supply and the total value market cap, and anybody can see the reserves. You can go to the websites for USDTez.com, USDTZ.com, or ETHTZ.io, and there's a reserve page. You can go to the block explorer and see the supply, how much it's worth, everything.
That's awesome. So and the thing that's crazy about it to me is like on the centralized exchanges and stuff like that, all this infrastructure sort of exists, right? Because it started with Bitcoin, then with all the ERC20 tokens and Tether and things like that, right? So all these things sort of exist in the centralized exchanges, but in the decentralized exchanges on each network, they sort of need their own. And the only decentralized exchange that's been launched so far, I know that there's another one launching any day now. QuickBSwap is Dexter, right? So Dexter is the only exchange yet, and half of the trading pairs essentially are tokens that you created, the ETHTZ and the USD Tez. And so the fact that $500,000 is already locked there, but there isn't really any tokens to trade quite yet, that you can't trade on a bunch of other decentralized exchanges, is pretty exciting, because I think that for me, right, like I get super excited from DEXs, right, and maybe I'm a nerd that got I met the guys at Total really early, and they were building the DEX aggregators for Ethereum, and I got excited by this sort of unstoppable notion of being able to trade, and that's happening now finally on Tezos for the first time, and I think this is like literally the first building blocks of being able to do that on Tezos. And soon, from what I hear behind the scenes, a lot of companies or organizations or DAOs are going to be launching their utility tokens or their governance tokens and things like that on the Tezos network. So what we saw happen in Ethereum, and then in the ICO days, and then the DeFi, last 6 months craziness, we're going to start seeing the basics of that on the Tezos network, the beginnings, right? And that has some interesting potential.
Yeah, and I think like Uniswap, if you look back a year ago, their volume was like relatively nothing. There was a lot of potential there. And even when I first heard about it, Uniswap was actually when mid 2019, when Tyler of Camelcase announced he was going to do Dexter, and it was modeled off of Uniswap. And I was looking at, okay, what's their volume? It was hard to find it anywhere. No one was at that time, and it was I think it was like 200,000 a week. It was like really small, but and he was explaining it, and it's like it'll build capacity. Just he was able to kind of see several moves ahead. And slowly but surely we saw it grow to the point now where Binance and Coinbase are very much threatened on their exchanges by the massive growth of Uniswap, and it's not just the most popular DEX; it's becoming one of the most popular by numbers exchanges. Period. I think a year from now, they could pretty much be soundly in the lead of everything. And so, we still even get questions about are you going to move these things to a centralized exchange? It's like, well, they can do it, but really the DEXs are the future. So that's
there's all this writing on the wall, right? We are I would say even today is insanely early, not just on Tezos but also on Ethereum. Like, you look at all the money that's locked in DeFi on Ethereum, and it is minuscule compared to the banking system. I talked to a dude yesterday that was talking about the like hundreds of trillions of dollars in fixed income every year in the United States alone, which is BS, because essentially it's bonds that earn you 0% interest or negative. If you trust the government will still honor them, which they probably will, because they'll print money and whatever. But it's meaningless in comparison. But if you look at the alternative investment space in the United States, it's like $7 trillion a year. So the $50 billion in DeFi is still nothing, but the where it's scaring people and where the writing on the wall is that you can see where there's one good Robin Hood of crypto, one good PayPal of crypto, one good which any of those groups could be it, right? That give you access to this product, that either have the guts to kind of push the limits of what's the compliance will allow them to do, or we just all start using international services. But there's one good user experience away from that completely eating up market share and taking out small community banks and things like that. And that's what's exciting to me. And then the Robinhood fiasco debacle thing, the fact that and I know that's more on the, it would be more considered a security token versus DeFi, but this world is melding together, right? And the fact that it takes 2 days to settle a transaction on a stock exchange is absurd. It's ridiculous. Like it's the dumbest thing in the world. It's about as stupid as the banks charging poor people 12% to transfer money across the world. It's completely offensive and insane. And so all this stuff is changing now. Somebody asked a question right now. I think this is really important. I know this is an autocorrect error that I've also had. But I don't believe in a world where one blockchain will rule them all. I know some people in the Tezos network will argue with me about it. Some people in Ethereum will argue with me about that. Some people in a lot of people talking about Bitcoin will argue with me about that. But I believe like thinking of it as a programming language, and different programming languages are better for different use cases and different products and different ideas. And so I want to know. I want to know why you chose to build on Tezos. Like, give me a few of the we don't have to dive into the weeds, but like a few of the high level reasons why Tezos is different.
I think I think it's one thing to talk about like the great features on Tezos and the things that are coming in now and come to the future. But really, I think the more important thing is what has led to that and what is leading to that. What is that fundamental difference that makes it future-proof? And that is the on-chain governance, because it keeps the unity of the ecosystem, that it makes it so that people don't feel the need to hard fork. Hard forking is what you do when you're so frustrated with the governance that you don't think anything could ever change or innovation could ever go in your direction of what you believe should be done, that there's no other choice but to just take everybody else who agrees with you and secede from the union I should have that kind of equation. I don't get fired from the Mandalorian for trivializing something serious. But so you want that to happen. You want to keep the unity. The unity is what leads to ultimately better and innovation, better things, new stuff coming in. People won't pack off and leave and go somewhere else. And let's say you have so any baker on Tezos can propose a protocol upgrade and then go through the whole democratic parliamentary type process and through the various stages that there is, and then you could lead to an upgrade. Now, if you're rejected, this is the key thing. If your proposal is rejected, whereas somewhere else, another blockchain, they would leave and take off, say, oh, screw this, it's never going to go the right way. Well, if you still believe that you're right, and this is still going to be a united ecosystem. So history will show, the future will tell, like, oh, we should have listened to that proposal because that was actually the right answer. You will have gained points, effectively for the future. Okay, political points in a sense. And then the next time you propose something, you're going to have more gravitas. And that's the case. I always bring this up. The Rand Institute did a study on how terrorist groups disbanded. How did terrorist groups actually end? This came out in 2006. So they looked through 50 years of terrorist groups and how they ended. The number one reason was not through military conquest or their conquest of whatever their aims were. It was because they were absorbed into the political process. They put down their guns, and then they put on a suit and tie, and then they took the peaceful route to affect change. And they not only that, but they actually moved closer towards the center. They moved away from their extremist views because they needed to, they needed to politic their way. So that's what I saw in Tezos initially, and that's what I feel has held true today. And the consequences of that that are really cool. And here's one thing I can announce today. So with the Edo upgrade, we're bringing in saplings. We're bringing in the ZK channels and the ability to do zero knowledge proofs for transactions and all of that. So we've partnered with Bolt Labs, who has been really spearheading that effort on Tezos. So with your USD Tez and with your ETH Tez, you'll be able to use ZK channels for your transactions. And we believe that's the first, not just the first time on Tezos that's used, but I think for the first stablecoin ever that's using those zero knowledge proofs. So that's going to be really cool. I think
how exactly does that work, or at least like the general idea? Because the transactions occur on chain, right? So how do you add privacy, or how does that work exactly?
Yeah, so part of that's enabled by the Edo upgrade, that Mickelson, the new Mickelson support that would lead to all of this, all of the things that we need for this. There's an off-chain element that's coming from Bolt Labs that would facilitate the transactions themselves. So you can open, so a user can go into their wallet, like a Galleon wallet is what we'll start with, but really it's going to be obviously open source. Any wallet can implement this, whatever you like. And then open a channel, send your transaction, and then close that channel. Very simple.
Cool. And then the sort of the specifics are obfuscated in some way on the blockchain, so that you don't know exactly that I sent you $50 or something.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
It's very, very cool. Yeah. I mean,
and privacy tech, I think it's very important. Definitely just for the expansion of the ecosystem. When we think of cash or any other kind of transactional methods, this expectation of like just the exposure to the whole world could be, endangering at some points. So definitely that's something that, especially when you get to these high level transactions, and what we want to invite. We want the, not just what we call whales, but institutions coming in and doing their corporate level transactions. We're talking so much about governments coming in and doing their levels of transactions. So to facilitate all of those needs are obviously very, very essential. And it's not the same as, here's the money for the candy bar or whatever else,
Yeah, actually, just a total aside, it is pretty wild. If you ever, I never used Cash App, and more recently had to send $20 to someone. They asked me to use Cash App, and I connected. It was mind blowing how totally free and cool people are with just broadcasting every random transaction they have.
Yeah.
It was pretty mind blowing to me. Is like, $20 for groceries, $5 for this, $30 haircut, whatever. Like it was.
Oh, yeah, Venmo. The first time I ever saw it and saw someone use it, like it was not very clear, like the way they did it initially, because the first thing they showed you on the loading screen was like, here are all the latest transactions, and my reaction was like, oh my God, why are you using this? But it's like, no, you can do private. I'm like, okay.
By default, everyone just keeps it on. They're cool with it. And it's like weird. It feels like a weird invasion of privacy to read your friends' transactions.
I don't think I've ever made a transaction on Venmo public. I don't understand why anybody does it.
Yeah, no, Cash App or Venmo, one of those two. I think it was Venmo actually, not Cash App. Now that I'm saying it out loud. So let's dive back into this. So I know that there's a big upgrade happening. It's happening this weekend, right? So it's public it will be the chain gets amended over the weekend. What's the terminology? I'm still learning all of the Tezos terminology and everything.
Yeah, well, it's been going on because it's been a process that's taken some time, and I think the most interesting part has been the actual level of getting to this point. But now is the time for all the node upgrades and everything, and making sure everything is going smoothly. And the community, what's beautiful is that the community helps each other. If there's any questions or people are, especially the new bakers, because I'm always trying to bring new people on board to do it. It's like, oh, what do I do? It's like, hey, there's a whole community that can help you. So I think that's important.
I would like to. I actually ran into, not a wall, because it was easily Googled, but then I had to figure out what was more recent, what was like the best resources when I wanted to try and learn how to mint some NFTs on chain and all that stuff. And I ended up just Googling and looking through all sorts of resources to find the TQ Tezos website, to find a few of their tutorials. Is there a particular single place people should go to for resources? So like there's community, but then there's also resources. I know community, I've not participated much, but I've lurked a lot on the Reddit, the Tezos Reddit channel. But
yeah, there's the Baker Slack. That's always been the tried and true resource that people go to. Yeah, I think that's the best place. I think if you go to like Tezos.com or any of the main sites, there's a link to the Baker Slack. So that should always be a front and center resource for everybody. And in baking in general, especially though, because now I think it's really important, because now is the time when you see Tezos booming in the price and the volume is higher than it's ever been in its history. A lot of new people are getting exposure to Tezos and more funded accounts than ever. We're kind of like, smoke's coming out of the stacks on all levels. But like, it's important that this is consolidated by the expansion of the network. And that's also a good affirmation of this, of how solid the growth in the asset is as well. So it's not just so much that the volume, I mean, that's important that volume consolidates with price, which has always been a great thing about Tezos. I've always pointed that out to people who are like, oh, what about this thing that's booming? It's like, yeah, but that's not gonna last, and it doesn't. Those prices just fall the next day. Tezos has been a consistent growth vehicle because of that. But it should also be followed through by an expansion of the network. So it's important to monitor those Baker statistics and see, are new nodes going live? Are there more bakers in the system? Are people coming in? If you're bringing your friends in to get Tez, then also try to introduce them to baking, let them step their way into it. That's what's really gonna keep this a solid ground. And if for nothing else, let's say the price is tested again, well, it's always the bakers that are that support line at the bottom, because they want to take a dip in price as a chance to expand their bond deposit, to maybe add another role, all of that. And those are the people who are just the most deep in Tez, the most deep in Tezos. They see that as the long-term thing. They're not jumping from asset to asset. We talk about weak hands in the markets. These are the strongest hands in Tezos, are the bakers, okay? Those are the real devotees. All right, so we want more of them, and we want those that are there to be more empowered.
So I love it. So something for me that's really, really important. We only have a few more minutes, so I also want to dive into the bridge. So I've got, and I'm sitting on a couple questions from the audience too. So what's important to me is, all of this stuff is wonderful. But doesn't count. I mean, it counts, but it doesn't count until people are actually using it, right? You can argue with every engineer, for example, going back to the programming language argument, as to what's a better programming language than the one they're using right now, or especially if they're an employee at a company. The first thing every engineer does is argue that they should be using some other tech, right? You should be using
the way you like.
Yeah. Right.
Like, best thing ever. I don't care.
So whatever that is, I'm not. That wasn't meant to be a dig, but it kind of sounded like it. But what is important to me, I get, like, I've met so many people who are obsessed with Tezos. So many people will talk to me about baking. So many people talk to me about the sort of baking rewards they've been earning for years and years, and how bullish they are on Tezos and everything, right? But there hasn't been yet, until Dexter launched, a reason to take your Tezos off of your cold storage or out of wherever you're holding it and delegating your baking, to bring it on chain, put it onto like a Thanos wallet or a wallet that you can interact with on chain, and do that. And we know that next week Calamint is going to be launching, and that's going to be really crazy exciting. So there'll be NFTs on Tezos, but there needs to be more and more reasons, right, to bring it on chain. So last night, I got lucky that I happened to be online when you texted me, and I got to be the guinea pig and send the first transaction across the bridge, the TezX bridge that you guys launched. And Blind Ripper just asked, when is that going to be public, and is the back end ready for the massive influx? I think it's going to be drips before a flood because of gas fees and some of the experiences. But tell everyone a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So and Mac was on the other end doing the facilitating it. So you ended up actually swapping with Mac because he was. So the way it works is, and there'll be a document on this today, and also a Google form if people want to participate in that direction. So you have customers like you were, and then you have Mac and those who are also doing what he's doing, which are the change makers. And what they do is they run a bot on their device, and that's connected to their wallets. And this is a totally decentralized system. There's no custody anywhere. So it's just atomic swaps through this network of people who kind of hook into it through these bots that they run. And those are the change makers. We call them change makers. Obviously, it has a couple different meanings to it, but because it's an exchange, they're making the change, and also yeah. So and Mac was very happy because of his the reward he got from that. So he thanks you. And yeah, so the key is that the change makers, it's not just they run the spot, but they also have to have the capital in it, whatever that is that they'd be trading with. So you had USD Tez, you put in USDC, you had the USD Tez, you swapped, and that's how that happened. And then in about a week or so, we'll be able to add the ETH Tez. And then it can just keep going from there. And there will be no limit to the amount to what we can do after that. I mean, it's just going to be really huge. So what we want to do now, though, is build up capacity. That's like, and I mean like now. So if you're interested in that, that's an opportunity to be a change maker. So anybody can do this. So because it's all secondary market. So anybody can be a change maker. Just put in the bots. Make sure
you do have to be somewhat technical, right? Like you have to be able to run a bot on like in AWS instance or on your own server. You have to be able to run a bot.
Yeah, and and we're even talking to HSM services and producers for people who want to do that, so you can run on your local node. There are a lot of different ideas on ways to run it, but it could be as simple as just your computer.
I've got an idea, and maybe I'm going to do this or enlist somebody watching to help. Could I run a bot? When you run a bot, do your funds sit in a contract? Where do they sit? They sit in a wallet?
In your wallet. It's you keep the custody the whole time. Only when the swap happens does anything leave your wallet. So
could it be a pool or a contract instead of a wallet? Could we customize the bot to do that?
In theory, anything's possible, but
so what I'm thinking is, can I create a liquidity pool for the TezX bridge on the Tezos side, or the Ethereum? On the Ethereum side, I know actually technically how to do that a little better because I've had longer time to experiment. But create a liquidity pool and share the reward fees with people who don't want to run a bot, but who are willing to basically stake their USD Tez or whatever. Can we do that?
Yeah, I mean, so they would go and then they deposit to you or whatever.
I would have a website, it'd be like alonrules.tez and whatever.
Yeah, as long as you can interface with the protocol, then yeah, anything could happen. Because it's completely decentralized. That there's no custody, there are no deposits, none of that. It's all just person to person. But
that's sort of what the sort of farming and adoption stuff with when you provide to a liquidity, but this is just a liquidity pool that's cross-chain instead of just a Dexter pair or a Uniswap pair or whatever. So. But we're just at about 30 minutes now, but I can go a couple more minutes if you still have time. Yeah. A few questions. I'm down to do it. That's right, Sergio. You coming in to be a co-founder? I don't actually want to create the business.
You get a lot of traction on that. But yeah, but I'll put out a doc that'll explain just the basics of how this works, and there'll be. And really, you don't need any permission to do it, but there will be a Google form if you need some assistance to get going. We want to, obviously, we'll be here, and we have people all over the world to support this. So yeah, to get started, get going. Now, keep in mind, the caveat is, for one thing, this is not, we've taken a lot of security steps, a lot of peer review, but so auditing is still happening. So this is not it hasn't passed the rigor of a formal audit. So keep that in mind as well, though. Yeah. So there's that. Yeah. So we want to be able to bring in the masses to come in, and it's just be like, you can go on in and make your trade as a customer. But we want to build the capacity first. So over the coming days, we're building up that capacity of change makers. So this is the early opportunity to get in. So anybody wants to get in can get in. All you need is the capital, the inventory that is to trade, and then the bot that would be running. And yeah, we're also advancing over the next week the tools and features so that we can show how to monitor the system and everything. So
cool. And where do we go to find that? It's at Tezos.
Come on to any of the social, yeah. So it will be at bridge.tezos.io. So
but for now, Tezos.io will link to like all the information.
Well, I will post. You can go to my Twitter. I'll put that out. Yeah, I'll put it on everything. I'll put it on the Tezos.io. Come on, the Telegram chat is actually really popular. That's kind of become the place that people are going to. But yeah, through Twitter. And we have a Reddit, so we need to start getting more active on that too. Yeah, and we're also on Element. We should probably put up a Discord at some point. If I don't lose my mind with the millions of social channels that I have for all of these things, then yeah, we can keep adding more. But yeah. So
we're running, but so. Somebody asked this question. I think it might be kind of interesting. And then somebody asked about marketing for user adoption and stuff like that. So I have some feelings there too. But Blind Ripper, do you know who this? We shouldn't even say.
Oh yeah, he's an OG.
But don't say his name if he's trying to keep it.
That's fine.
So I actually first heard about Tezos when the Tezos original crowd sale was happening, or I don't know if it was a crowd sale, how it worked. And I was working as a, I don't remember yet if I had started I was working at a fund that was part of the Draper Venture Network. So I saw Tim Draper's name, that he was investing in it and all that fun stuff. And and so I had just, remember, this was like the 2017 craziness. And I personally, my feelings on almost all of the sort of like, YOLO crazy, like here's a deal, like there was this moment in time where there's all this stuff happening online with ICOs, but also offline. You'd get phone calls from somebody and they'd be like, hey bro, I got this deal. You could buy this token from me. I got the SAFT for 20 cents. But it's already at the 40-cent thing. So buy it from me for 30 cents, and then you can get this piece of paper and you'll sell it to somebody for 40 cents. And that shit to me was like really gross. It's just not me. And it wasn't necessarily always, bad or fraudulent or whatever. It was people making money on deals just like you do on trading, right? But I'm not a trader. I'm like not good at it because it's just not my thing. Like I'm not maybe disciplined enough for that kind of like that mindset. But it's also just like it sort of was all of a sudden bankers, like investment bankers, were participating in the crypto space by trying to like flip deals, right? Like I'm gonna buy something for $1 million and I'm gonna sell it to you for $2 million, and in a 3-day period of time, I'm gonna make a lot of money. Fine, do that. Like cool, good for you. But like it was never ever for those people about what actually exists, or like the technology or a startup, right? And you know me, like I'm an early stage startup person. So for me, it's like, I'm gonna bet on Kevin and we're married for the next 10 years and it might fail, right? But like we're going all in. I don't have a good mindset for like, how do I flip something in one day to make a buck? Especially when it's like on people's backs and this idea. So just to preface this, so during those times is when I heard about Tezos. So in my mind, it was just like this, okay, it's this thing, like it's cool, it's another blockchain, but At that time, I wasn't as big of a nerd for the space as I am now. I was like getting into it. I liked the ICO model for the fact that it completely ripped apart crowdfunding and what we wanted to do in crowdfunding originally, but they just decided to not follow the rules, and so it worked. Hey, what do you know? These rules have slowed down innovation and slowed down growth. And so I sort of got into crypto for those reasons, and Bitcoin and stuff like that. And then I started learning. And then where I really all of a sudden went from Tezos is maybe this cool thing I read about, but like, you know, the crowd sale, I don't participate in that kind of stuff. At least back then, I was just trying to learn about it all. And then I went to a Draper Venture Network event because I was working at one of the funds in the network. And I got to hang out in one of the sessions that were just for the funds of the Draper Network. So it's like 50, 60 people in the room. And Adam Draper, Tim's son, Adam, who runs Boost VC, who, you know, I worked with in the past, and that's part of, you know, how I became a part of the Draper Network myself, interviewed Kathleen about Tezos. And it went from like, this is kind of interesting, this thing I learned about, but like I didn't participate in the crowd sale because like it was just felt weird to me and I wasn't doing those things back then. And it went from like, this is really interesting to holy shit, this is really, really cool. And I like got it after that conversation. And I also remember thinking that every time I met someone, it reminded me of when I first was meeting people that were building stuff on Ethereum and all that. Like you'd walk into the room, you'd talk to them and they're like, oh shit, these people are like another level smarter than I am. Like this is like beyond. And I never thought I was like the super smart math nerd guy, because that's not me. But like I would walk into a room and I always joke that every time I thought I understood it, like you peel the onion and there'd be like a whole different layer of like, I don't get it. So when I first heard Kathleen talk about it, and then over the years met a bunch of other people in the community, I just felt like everybody I talked to was really, really smart. And with Tezos, at least until this point, I haven't seen a lot of the bandwagoners join on yet. And maybe when more public things start happening, you know, like this bridge and things like that, there will be people who go like, oh, here's how to just make a buck. Here's how to make money. But the fact that like everyone in the network, it's starting, and I will be like totally honest, it's starting to work against Tezos. That everyone is so thoughtful and so smart because it's taking a little too long to execute and get shit done.
It'll hit a tipping point, I feel. Like it's all about building capacity now on all ends. I'm talking about it with this one thing, but everything is building capacity. The last article I wrote about the Tezos Finance, it's really about how a DeFi cycle, I mean, it's complete when you have a lending system. You can have all the other stuff and things can grow and it can be great, but it really takes off when you have a lending system. And that's not just about crypto. That's the history of finance. You know, you can read about the Dutch Golden Age and how the revolutionary aspect of their lending system just changed everything. It moved us to the industrial era, and all of the innovation and everything we've had technology-wise can be tracked back to that you could have a system of debt where like, you know, you could just, the courts can enforce something and the police and the law and order system can actually take care of you. And it doesn't have to be through just like the, you know, the commands of a monarch or something like that. That changed everything. So now instead of having a court system and police, you have a blockchain and that enforces everything.
And now we have decentralized choices. And I think that's really, really important, right? Because whatever we say about the fees on Ethereum and what is happening, what the, you know, all issues, what's been built there, and what's even if you looked at it as like a proof of concept, which is well beyond that, it's epic, right? Like it's really, really cool. And there are at minimum features and things that Tezos brings to the table that's different, that can take that to a different level or to a new level. At max, it could be the last blockchain, right? Like what you're saying. But to me, what's really exciting is people building have choices. There's different products that can be built here that couldn't be built somewhere else. There's reasons why an NFT on Tezos is different than an NFT on Ethereum, and that's different from an NFT on Wax. There's reasons why, like like the Edo and all push and all that, it makes it different. So there's all these differences, and this is, I think you were right. This is, for me, the inflection point. I feel like for one little moment we know something everyone else doesn't know, because everyone who was around in the 2017 times laughs at me when I say I'm looking at companies that are building on Tezos. Like they look at me like, you saw that video with Ran when I was on his show, and he's like, give me a call. What are you investing in? And I said Tezos, and he literally was like because we haven't heard anything, but because I met you and because I've talked to a lot of the community members, I know of all of these things that are building it. There's a groundswell.
Think of it this way, because we have a confidence in the Tezos community, because we know we're going to stay united, and because we know we're the last blockchain and other blockchains are our testnet, we have the luxury of time to get things right. And so that we have had it, and that's why, like, obviously we want innovation to go as fast as possible, but we're not rushing things through the door. We're first of all making sure that there's consensus for things, but also not just so that everyone's happy that they've had their say, but because everyone can contribute something intellectually to the technology, and we can get it right, and we can observe other blockchains and see what they do. That's one of the reasons why a lot of people might not like this example, but take it with a grain of salt. Apple, they're not always the first to have the newest innovation features on the iPhone. In fact, they tend to lag sometimes, but when they do it, we can't really, it's not much to sneeze at, because they do it right. You can go back to the Steve Jobs speech with the first unveiling of the iPod, and he just shows like, here's how these guys did it, and here's how these guys did it, and it didn't work. It's not what people wanted. What you need is a hard drive. And then it was just like in review, and here's the way that, and it becomes so obvious in the end. And here's this united ecosystem that's able to implement it and give it. That's what I see a lot of that in Tezos.
I think that I like that, because Dexter, of course, when they launched, like, just to use one example, and probably the only example, right, so far, they did launch, and their product is leaps and bounds beyond like the first version of Uniswap. And it's different in many ways. And from what I saw,
by the way, people got to know that their numbers, like for the first few months, I mean, they've been doing much better. I mean, that's to be expected, of course.
But what's I think going to be exciting is now, okay, getting to launch a bunch of products. Now I want a little more competition on Tezos, so that everyone ups their game and things grow and things change. And I think that that's going to be really exciting. And I think that's a good thing to sort of end on. Somebody is asking about governance tokens.
Right. I wanted to also answer a thing about that. Let's see what the question is.
Okay, sorry. But what I will say at a high level is, or you go.
So for one thing, and this is an extreme, but sometimes people they ask immediately, they're like, how do I get the governance token? Do you have a governance token? And they ask that about things that haven't even been launched. What I compare that to, the way I interpret it, I know it's on one level, it's oh yeah, great that you're interested this much that you want the governance token. That's awesome. But also it's kind of this is what I imagine a hot woman feels when a guy's like, oh my God, you're so beautiful. Will you marry me? Marry me right now. It's well, that could be flattering, but also I know you're not sincere, and it's just probably more about a hit it and quit it kind of thing. And if not, then there's.
I was only half paying attention right now because I just got a bunch of alerts on my phone that I need to discuss while we're still on. So I'll let we need to end this.
Well, I want to leave on this because it's I think governance tokens are obviously very important. I think that I like the way that we see a lot of things happening now where Uniswap and whatnot, they had been asked for a governance token from the very beginning for years, but they hadn't come down to it. I think they might have even waited longer if SushiSwap hadn't kind of pushed them in that area. It really, I think it should go as a reward for one's effort and participation, not simply an airdrop just because to anybody who has any kind of thing. That was kind of the old way in 2017, 2018. Anyone with an Ethereum account gets this. Now it's well, you participate in the system, and then that could lead to it. But that shouldn't be the primary motivation. I think it's a reward for those who have participated, but also because those are the people most likely to use that governance token for what it's for, which is governance, and they're probably the people who are most responsible to lead that technology into the future. So yeah, that's
it's not an important
here, but you know.
It's not an important thing to rush. It's a very important not to rush it. And it's I wouldn't even say, you know, Blind Ripper, you say they're for quick bucks. I wouldn't say they're for quick bucks, but people use them for quick bucks, right? Yeah. So that's how they're used right now in a lot of senses, and people will launch a token, use that money, and then launch the product. And for compliance reasons too, that's not good, especially if you're in the United States. So being thoughtful is very important. Talking to securities lawyers is very important. Doing the right thing is very important. As much as we would love to just completely like burn down the system and go rogue, we can't. We can't always do that. You know, so,
how he felt and all that. You know?
This made me laugh. Hey, but here's something crazy. We have to end. This is going too long. But during this call, Tezos just hit an all-time high. We're not looking. I'm not even exaggerating. Tezos passed the all-time high during this call, but so did Ethereum. I think we did something here. I don't know if we had something to do with it or not, but we probably did. I mean,
well, it'll be interesting to see where the USD Tez XTZ pairing is on Dexter.
Yes, that is true. The good Dexter are a great place for arbitrage. Yeah. So what I want to say before we hang up is make sure, if you're watching this on YouTube or whatever, to subscribe on the YouTube and LinkedIn for LA Blockchain Summit, so you hear about this and our other events. We do a ridiculous amount of events. We're counting this as an event, and we count Blockchain and Booze as an event. So it's a little bit cheating to say 100 because this is less of an event and more of a podcast. But Blockchain and Booze every Tuesday night that Adam on our team does is something you absolutely should join. It's so much fun. There's a panel for an hour, and then you get to hang with the community for an hour on these tables and get to bounce between them and have some fun. Our next actual big event is going to be Security Token Summit. It's happening virtually. And what's cool about that on the Tezos front is that one of our portfolio companies, Vertalo, actually enables launching your security tokens on the Tezos network, and they even have their own, if I understood correctly, their own contract in which they do that, but other groups use different ones. But you can use Vertalo to manage your cap table on the blockchain and then actually launch security tokens. It's really neat. And they use Tezos, so that's fun. But come join those events. Thank you, Kevin, so much for being here. I have a feeling we'll be talking a lot more about Tezos and other projects on Tezos. Check out the TezX bridge once it's live. Follow Kevin, and thanks everybody for joining us.
Thank you.
And what's Ethereum? Thanks, Marco. Oh yes, we do mean ETHTZ. ETHTZ hit its all-time high during this call.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. Subscribe everywhere. We will see you all soon. Even my mom was watching. Bye, guys. Bye.